This is the Rachel Show, where I interview key people about lawfare, election fraud, media bias, and other hot topics. And today we are going to dive into the case of horrible lawfare against a honest, ethical, conservative attorney in Arizona, Vlad Gagic, who had an unblemished history. He's a military veteran. He practiced criminal law for, I believe, 20 years, but he tangled with the wrong person. Rhino, Maricopa County Attorney Rachel Mitchell. She has asked for sanctions representing the Board of Supervisors twice against Carrie Lake over Carrie Lake's election fraud lawsuits. And what happened was Vlad was representing a young black man who was falsely accused of child molestation. And when the woman accusing him became an adult, she recanted and said she had made it all up. But Mitchell would not stop the prosecution. And so Vlad has struck out. He's done everything he could to get his client exonerated, but Mitchell would not back down. And so many of you guys have probably seen some of the feuding going on X over this, but you might not know how bad the lawfare has become. Vlad's license has now been suspended for, I believe, a year, and Mitchell wants to see him disbarred. So let's get into this. Vlad, explain some of the details about your representation of this young man, Jamal Pennington, and any other details I left out in what happened to him.
And thank you, Rachel. Thank you for having me. It's so nice to be able to share my experience and maybe as a word of warning to other folks so that they know just how bad it is in Arizona. The story is it's just like you said, basically. I was a lawyer for 20 years. I was a public defender, no history in 20 years. In 20 years of practice, I never even had to do diversion, right? I never had any sort of bar complaints of any sort whatsoever. And then I'm a court appointed lawyer, which means the court pays me to represent somebody at an hourly rate. So when I got the Jamal Pennington case, it's not like he gave me $30,000 or some, boatload of money to get him off or anything like that. He was just a guy I was trying to defend. I've done a lot of cases like his over the years. And at first, I didn't believe him. I did not believe anything to have to say that he had to say, or his family had to say, or even my investigator had to say about him that he was innocent. I thought, just a typical story. And like you had said in your introduction, yes, I am a conservative. I'm a former Marine. I'm an immigrant. I'm Serbian. Uh, Serbs tend to be very conservative, very Republican.
You were the one who pointed out to me that weren't they the only European country that went for Trump?
In all of Europe, Serbia is the only country that had a positive rating for Donald Trump. And this was in the middle of lawfare when, like 2022, when it was looking like he was going to go to prison. Serbs loved Donald Trump, and we still love Donald Trump. And that's me, that's the kind of guy I am. So I don't hate cops. Of course I don't hate cops. Something happens, I'm going to call the police, right? Like a normal person does. I even applied after my assault. I even applied to the county attorney's office to work over there. And I would have worked over there if I had gotten the job, but I didn't get the job for whatever reason. Anyway, going back to Jamal Pennington's case, he's accused of sex trafficking, meaning that he was a pimp. And I have plenty of time to look into the case. And it turns out he was actually telling the truth. I mean, not like the particular details of what happened day by day, but the long story is that he was low hanging fruit. He was picked up at a place called the Palos Inn on 24th Street, Van Buren, and that had been targeted by the FBI and Phoenix police as part of Cindy McCain's little task force to stop human trafficking. Don't have any problem with it, right? Great, stop human trafficking, but it was a political operation. And that task force, it's called HEAT, the Human Exploitation and Trafficking Unit, was actually featured on Frontline. So if anybody who's watching this Google's sex trafficking in America, they're going to see the episode. They were lionized, they're made into heroes. And the lady running it, a lady named Christy DeCuffle, was the lady who investigated Pennington. Anyway, while I was so there was a lot of political pressure connected to the FBI to make all these prosecutions uh, stick, right? And Jamal was literally at the wrong place at the wrong time. He got picked up. And they tried to force him to plead guilty, and he wouldn't do it. So, I look into the case. I listened to the interviews. A lot of evidence is missing. Then I noticed that the victims, the accusers, are actually talking to one another. Because I know that because they say that on the video, on the recording, and witnesses, as you know, as a prosecutor too, if you have victims, they're not supposed to be able to coordinate their story behind the scenes, right?
Right.
You're supposed to talk to them individually so you know you can kind of figure out if they're telling the truth or not.
Right.
Especially what's not supposed to happen is if they are talking to each other, you're not supposed to hide it. The police officers aren't supposed to talk to the victims off the record to get the story straight and then go on the record. And I knew that was happening because they said it. The worst example though was there was a lady, a white lady who was being adult, who was being trafficked, and the police specific the couple, detective the couple specifically asked this lady, "Do you know these two young females, minors, who Jamal was accused of trafficking?" And she goes, "Yeah, I know exactly who they are." He goes, "Jamal, they're traffickers." Like, I have no idea who that is. They show her a picture of Jamal and she can't recognize him. She goes, "No, I know who's trafficking him." She names somebody else. And they go, "How do you know he's trafficking her?" "Because he's my pimp." Those are her exact words. And that's on the recording. And I tried to interview her for, I'm going to say 4 years. You know how defense attorneys will have to request interview if you want to interview a state's witness. Because she was noticed as a state witness, we have to request interviews through the state. For 4 years, they tell me, we'll we'll set it up, blah blah blah. Eventually, the new prosecutor comes on the scene and says, "Yeah, we can't find her so tough." You
Sounds like
know, oh,
malpractice to me.
it sounds cynical. It sounds cynical because you have a woman who's, and just as a prosecutor, as a citizen, why would you want? Wouldn't you like lose sleep at night if you were putting the wrong man in prison? Not only because you're putting the wrong man in prison, but also because the right guy is out to do it again. So it's a double whammy, right? But guess what? My investigator finds her and we go talk to her and she tells us, "Well, I don't know why they're telling you they can't find me because I talk to the couple all the time on Facebook." You know what? She's actually giving me money on Facebook. She's helping me with school. And you know what else? She's helping me remember. And then and this is the kicker. She goes, "Yeah, the probation officer, parole officer, somebody was here just last week because my boyfriend's getting out of prison and he's going to move in. So they had to check it out." So they knew exactly where she was. They knew exactly where she was. And, she confirmed because I had a recording, so I played it for her. And yeah, I didn't know who he was. It was the other guy. And she named little stacks and big stacks and things like that, but she had no idea who Jamal was. Long story. And then eventually, I file a motion and I get Facebook records. So I have this in writing. I actually have this in writing. Facebook records proving that the case agent, the couple, was talking to the defense witness in secret, giving her money.
You showed me
It's
those
right.
messages. I've seen them.
The GoFundMe is right there, for her charity or something like that. Why is a case agent giving money to a defense witness who says the defendant is not guilty? Why is she telling the witness that I'm shady, that the prosecutor, my investigator shady? I mean, you know what she said. She was tampering with a witness. It's all there and all there in writing. So, I filed a motion to dismiss the. I mean, there's a bunch of reasons, but I just thought the tampering and writing a defense witness, in writing, I thought that was the most egregious. So I filed a bunch of motions, and the judge just shoots me down. He tells me, "No, you're get out of here, man. What the hell is wrong with you?" And it was Beretsky. I know everybody loves Beretsky. Everybody loves him.
I'm not familiar with them, so I don't know.
Justin Beretsky. Everybody loves him. Oh, he's so good looking. He's so nice. He's so charming. He is, well, I won't use the words. I'll just summarize it by saying he's cynical and he's self-serving. He knows I spelled everything out there. I put all the evidence, and it was pages and reams of evidence and my point was not that Jamal was innocent or not guilty or anything. The dude just deserves the right to prove it, right? Just give him his day in court. Just give him a chance to say, "I didn't do this because," and X, Y, and Z proved it. That's all I wanted to
And you
do.
were never allowed to get this evidence into court, right?
They just said no. No, he literally, so what Beretsky said, literally said was, well, the evidence that you have doesn't in and of itself prove is not in and of itself exculpatory, right? So what he was saying is for me to introduce evidence, it's called a third party defense, basically that Jamal didn't do it, it was somebody else who did it. I have to prove that it's dispositive. So before we even get to trial, before we even do an evidentiary hearing,
which
I
which is
he
un,
didn't.
which is unheard of except in like election fraud cases where they say you have to prove the fraud before you even get to go through the discovery and the evidence and the trial. Right. He's basically making you prove that he's innocent before all the proceedings take place.
In and of itself exculpatory. That's not only wrong, it's not only un-American, it violates natural rights. Isn't the most natural right we have to prove we didn't do something that the government accuses us of? And we have like actual evidence of somebody else doing it? And he said, no. I can't. Not only did he say no, he said, I can't even try to use it. And then so I filed what's called a special action. And I'm like, where's he getting that from? Because the rule is it just if you want to introduce evidence of a third party defense, then think, I didn't rob that store. The guy across the street robbed the store. You just have to have some evidence of it, right? You can't just make things up like it was aliens or it was, John Doe and Prescott. You have to have some evidence that's okay, it's not a crazy whacked out theory, right? Common sense, common sense. But he threw all that out the window. And so I was critical of him. I filed a motion, or what's called a special action, it's basically an appeal before trial, saying, where is he getting that from? Is he getting it from the Spanish Inquisition? Like, where is he getting that standard? That's literally all I said. And because I said that, they basically disbarred me. Because of that one line, they disbarred me. And it was a setup. Beretsky was setting me up on purpose. The other thing was the judge, Judge Chuck Whitehead, Roy Whitehead. I'll just say this because the public needs to know is he was the first lawyer, the first judge on the case. And we had a hearing where I was asking for additional discovery and he just was shooting me down, shooting me down. And I could tell that he had no idea about any of the facts of the case. He didn't know anything about the case. And after the hearing, my investigator was at the hearing with me, right? And he comes up to me after the hearing and I go, what the hell is happening, man? He just listened to the prosecutor. His name was Lacey Fisher at the time. Because I know that guy. I saw him yesterday at Bourbon Street. He told me he sees, like, not just him, but other lawyers I know see him there all the time.
And that's a strip club.
That's a strip club. His former office mate, and I don't say this to embarrass the guy. Well, I am saying it now, but because I hate him or anything like that. It's just I'm entitled to defend myself, and so is Jamal. And I wouldn't have brought it up if it wasn't for this, because he joined the bar complaint with Beretsky.
And
He
and and
joined the
and let me just point out too, Vlad. So you've been saying publicly that this judge goes to strip clubs, but has this judge ever sued you for defamation or libel?
not only that, the state bar doesn't dispute it. They're like, what they're coming after me now, they're not denying it because they know it's true.
And your and,
It's
and
not
your point is he's going to strip clubs during the day, right?
he's going this is even worse. He's going to strip clubs during the day. And then my investigator tells me, yeah, he went over there. He's leaving business cards at the strip club. So it'd be one thing, even during the day, right? And I was just gonna just say real quickly, I knew one of his office mates who used to share an office with him, and what she told me got him was Chuck doesn't read anything, right? So he's completely unprepared for his cases, and he's actually the one who suppressed the DNA evidence of a blood test. Do you remember? I think her name was Alyssa Feldman. They got the DNA test from a from they got the DNA from blood they got from a DUI years before, and he said you can't use it, and the Court of Appeals reversed him. He was going to let a murderer go, is what I'm saying. But he's telling everybody at the strip clubs he's a judge. He's telling them. So why is he doing that? Why is he leaving his strip? Why is he leaving his business cards there? Because if a judge goes to buy I mean, you know the rules. If a judge goes to buy a car or a house or whatever, he doesn't get to say, by the way, I'm a judge. About, some favors. No, you don't get to do that. And I'm not saying that he is doing that. I'm just wondering why wouldn't he just be going in like a trench coat and a floppy hat covering himself up? right?
So so let's delve into what happened with Rachel Mitchell's fiance,
And,
in these anonymous Twitter accounts and how that all unraveled.
and can I just add one more point too, just real quickly? So the original bar complaint in 2022, I did not get a hearing. No hearing on the merits. I was not defaulted, and I was no consent. I am the only lawyer in 100 years of the Arizona State Bar to be sanctioned without a hearing on the merits, without consent, or without default. And then they didn't publish the decision. They kept it secret.
Which is
So,
so strange, but I believe that's because it was so full of holes. What they did to you, they don't want the public to know.
and then Jamal represented himself. And of the 10 charges, 9 of them have been dismissed. 9 of them have been dismissed, so there's only one left. Anyway, so now, I get this bar, basically de facto this bar, and only lawyer that's ever happened to in 100 years. I told Marette to sell that in Senator Kern's office, and couldn't name anybody else, right? And by the way, my investigator was in Kern's office where he told both Joel England and Marette and Kern what he saw about Whitehead, and they already knew. So the bar knows about it, right? The bar knows about it, and so does Kern. Anyway, I go on Twitter because what the hell? What else am I going to do? Like, what else am I going to do? The
You're
media,
reaching out to the court of public opinion is what you're doing because you
right?
can't get a fair trial in the real court. Right.
I didn't get a trial. Just like Jamal didn't get his day in
Yeah.
court, I didn't get my day in court. And nobody cares. Literally, nobody cares. Everybody treats me as a pariah. I try to talk to the Arizona Republic about it. I try to talk to Dave, what's his name, Biskabing or whatever. Because, he comes off as a social justice, truther or whatever you want to call it. He's full of it. He's just an operative. And so I go, okay, I'm going to go on X. And I'm just going to tell stupid fact jokes on X. And I start talking about Jamal's case, and then that's when the NAACP comes involved through Jamal's wife, Julia. And they tell me that the NAACP has concerns about the case and that they're talking to Mitchell about it. And that the case is going to go to what's called integrity review, which is like an internal process to review the case. So what do? I get a text message from the pastor. I put it on X. Great news, right? Great news, right? Maybe the system does work. I get a text message from the pastor saying, hey, take that off. You got to stop talking about this, or she's going to yank. He didn't say it politely like I'm telling you. He was rude about it, demanding that I stop talking about the case. Otherwise, Mitchell is going to stop integrity review of Jamal's case. She never was going to do it in the first place. That was just a lie. But that's what she was telling Miller, then NAACP. And then later on, I get a text. Julia, his wife, gets a text message from Miller that Mitchell had sent to Miller while this is going on, where she's telling him. So Rachel Mitchell is telling Andre Miller of the NAACP that my criticism of the state bar, because she cut and pasted one of my tweets criticizing the bar, was jeopardizing Jamal's case. So me criticizing the state bar, nothing to do with Jamal's case. All I said was that they're effing cronies, right? About something or another. But I knew it was my tweet and I could see it. And I don't know if you have a picture of it, right? Did you see it? You
I'm
remember
sure
seeing
I
it?
have since I followed your case really closely.
So that's where I was wondering, like, why is Mitchell, the county attorney, telling the NAACP that my criticism of the state bar on Twitter is jeopardizing integrity review of Jamal's case? What does that have to do with the other? One have to do with the other, right? Well, what would stop her from saying, well, if Gagic doesn't vote for me, I'm not reviewing Jamal's case. If he doesn't give money to my campaign, I'm not reviewing Jamal's case. What's the difference? Is there any fundamentally?
I'm sure there's some ethical rules that were violated there, but the bar, leaves Rachel Mitchell alone, it's like the whole uniparty system.
And it's just not. You don't have to take my word for it. I actually have the tweet. I actually have the picture of it. So anyway, I'm like, what are you talking about, bro? This is it's a free country. Stupid me. You're so stupid. It's a free country, bro. I get to say what I want. right?
Not if you're an
He,
attorney. Those ethical rules are vague and broad, and we've seen them used to target conservative attorneys over and over again. They say you can't criticize judges, you can't criticize elected officials, yada yada yada. Just it's a catch-all. If they want to get you, they will get you.
and you know what? And I'm going to say this too. Three Serbian attorneys in Phoenix, right? Me, Mark Brnovich, and some other guy named Dragan. I know him from my church. The bar takes us out in the same like 2 month period. Isn't that weird? Like it was right during the after the elections or something like that.
You guys aren't
It,
well connected. I mean, you're easy targets. You're like,
that's
these
right.
these immigrants, they don't know anything. They're easy targets. Like, that's what I'm sure is going on.
That's exactly what it is. But and anyway, I keep going on Twitter, and then randomly some guy just starts trolling me. I'm just saying stupid things on Twitter. I mean, you see my tweets. I say the stupidest, most obnoxious things just because what else am I going to do all day?
You
You know
have a
what I mean?
sarcastic sense of humor.
Yes. It's just like, okay. I mean, if you're going to steal everything from me, I could be moralizing and lecturing and self-righteous and all that stuff, or I could try to. This whole situation is so absurd. Like, have you ever read Fahrenheit 451? Do you know the book?
Ray
Kurt
Bradbury
Vonnegut.
has been my favorite author since I was a child.
That's Kurt Vonnegut, right?
No,
The
that's Ray
one,
Bradbury.
which is the one where he's a bomber in a bomber crew and he's shot down and he goes back in time because of Dresden.
That,
Isn't that Fahrenheit 451? Okay, it's one
that
of those books. There's a book that Kurt Vonnegut wrote where he experiences Dresden and he time travels, right? Because it's so traumatic. It's absurd. Like Monty Python, it's absurd. And that's what I'm going through right now. The idea that a public defender defending a guy, trying to get a guy his right to trial would be disbarred and humiliated and publicly uh, defamed by the government without any sort of pushback or kickback by anybody. I found that really weird.
Because you were on the wrong side of what the Uniparty wants. A young black man must be a pimp. So we got to crack down on these young black men pimps. And, you got in the crosshairs, in the crossfire of this. So let's keep going because, the show's running out. Just
Oh,
explain how you believe Mitchell's fiance was trolling you on X, and you provided what to me looks like evidence where he said he admitted in court that he was defending her and doing this.
yeah. So anyway, I'm on Twitter, and then some random guy starts trolling me. Turns out I don't know who it is, but I start taking screenshots. Starts changing his name every once in a while. I start taking screenshots, and then I found out I assumed it was like an employee. I thought it was somebody who was trying to kiss at or curry favor with Mitchell. Just by coming after me. Really nasty stuff, like making fun of me for being assaulted, making fun of me for being suspended by the bar with insider information, right? And then going after Jamal and going after like Stephen Lemons, going after various reporters, Nicole Gregg. Well, long story, and I think you're the one who figured it out. It's Rachel Mitchell's fiance, a guy named Paul Stout. And when you said that, I remember exactly when you told me. I'm like, oh, okay. And then they're saying, like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, why would somebody do something like that? I literally, Rachel, had like two followers, and they were both porn bots. Why would
I
you
hope you
care what I
didn't
had to?
follow them back.
I didn't even know what porn bots were. I'm like, what's a bot? Seriously, that's how I was like, what's a bot? What does that mean? I didn't know anything about it. I'm just like, like that. And some guy's trolling me and blah, blah, blah. That's when you write the story. And then that's when somebody else who's named Tilden Katz comes after me, right? And then there was AZJ Paul or there was, he admitted to AZJ Paul and he admitted to AZ1 Patriot, right? So he admitted to making fun of Gina Godby here for for the shirt she was wearing, like kind of a sexist, nasty comment that he made
He
on
said
Mother's
he
Day.
said she was wearing a too tight shirt, and the reality is Gina Gaba here wears the most standard classical lawyer outfits. Like I've never seen her wear anything even remotely close to risque.
Let me just tell you, my theory is, since it was on Mother's Day, it wasn't him, it was her. I think it was Mitchell who sent that tweet because she was just jealous, right? She's jealous
Well,
that,
well, and for those who don't know, Gina ran against Mitchell for
right.
county attorney.
So that's why I don't, because I don't think a guy would say something like that. A guy wouldn't even notice it, or even if he did notice it, wouldn't even care to make it. You would not consider it an insult, is what I'm trying to say. Any guy I know. Anyway, then he starts coming after me as Tilden Cats, where he starts accusing me of bestiality. He starts accusing me of plagiarism. He starts making fun of me for being assaulted. I mean, we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of tweets. He outs a certain politician as being gay, tries to gay, I won't name the name, but gay shames them. He, a lot of just like horrendously evil stuff. So then I start asking questions, and I started asking questions like, who is this guy? Like, why is he so nasty? And Stephen Lemons on July, I think it was Sunday, August 18th, 2023, asked Mitchell, because I had talked to Lemons a couple of times. He asked her at a press conference, are you engaged or are you getting married to Paul Stout? And if you see the question, she freaks out over it. She doesn't want to answer it. Guess what happens after that, Rachel? Well, you know what happens right after, 5 days after that.
Didn't she threaten him? And for those who don't know, Stephen Lemons is a reporter for the Phoenix New Times who's done some fair reporting on Vlad's case.
She sends the FBI to my house. She sends the FBI to my house. She sends the FBI and 3 deputies to my house, and this is all on video, who get lost because they don't know how to get to my house. So they have to ask my neighbor down the street how to get to my house. Why do you think they got lost? Why do you think they weren't using GPS? Or they didn't call dispatch how to get to my house? They were actually outside my front door, and it's on the video. You can see them practicing to shoot me because Mitchell told them I was a full sovereign, whatever that is. I don't even own a gun, right? But they came into my living room. I'm law abiding. I'm a former U.S. Marine honorably discharged. They came into my living room to tell me I'm not allowed to criticize Rachel Mitchell, or if I do, I'm going to prison. And this was an FBI agent who was saying that, right?
And that violates the state's anti-SLAPP law. That law was passed to stop using the courts to squelch free speech.
Well, I mean, what am I going to do? What am I going to do about it? Like, what can I do about it? The ACLU doesn't care. My name is Vladimir. Do you think the ACLU is going to come up to defend me? Of course not. They don't care. They're like, eh. They're all. It's not just Uniparty. It's all these organizations are connected to the same thing. So, and then I think what's his name? He wasn't the sheriff then, but later on, Sheriff Jerry Sheridan says that his deputies. So even though it's 3 deputies, a guy named Tapley, Haressa, and Miller. Miller's the one who was getting ready to shoot me in my own house, right? In my own living room. That his deputies had nothing to do with it.
That was
Like he actually,
so weird. Like she had hired like some deputies off duty or something
yeah.
to, yeah.
So it's pretty obvious what happened is she hired 3 deputies and the FBI agent to scare me into silence. Nobody's going to find out. Nobody's going to know about it. It's all going to be super, super secret. That's why they didn't use dispatch or GPS. That's why it was all off the record. And they're just going to scare me, right? And then nobody's going to find out. That's why Sheridan said, there's no record of it. There's literally no record of it. But so what they were there to was to serve me with an injunction. And so we have a trial, an injunction, and I put the video on YouTube and on TikTok, by the way. And it's strict liability. Albrecht, who's the commissioner, literally said to me, I'm not allowed to prove the First Amendment is irrelevant. So literally what the Maricopa County Court is saying that is if you criticize a politician like I was criticizing Rachel Mitchell and her husband or her family member doesn't like what I'm saying about that politician, that family member can get an injunction to stop me from criticizing the politician. And Albert said that's copacetic. That's perfectly normal. That's literally what he said, right? That's literally what he said. And then I tried to appeal the decision. So he wouldn't let me prove the retaliation, the me just and I don't care about Paul stuff. I couldn't care less about him. I didn't even care about Rachel Mitchell, not in the least bit. The only thing I wanted to know is why is Mitchell hiding him? Like, why won't she admit who he is? Because what's the downside to it? I don't see what the downside is, right?
Well,
It,
there's probably some ethical rules involved if, he comes out and admits that he's behind these anonymous accounts. I mean, have you thought it through, all the ethical rules? Because yes, once in a while, the bar actually turns on a rhino. It doesn't happen very often, and it could cause damage to her next election.
well, I was thinking there's that. I won't get into the details, but there's a shoe robbery or shoe store robbery out in Anthem in 2001, where he was working at. I think it was 2001, and then there was a lady in 2007, a female neighbor, who accused him of assaulting her and her female mother and saying that he's a psycho. So I don't know. I don't know what it is. Maybe there's nothing. Maybe there is. I know at the trial, at the hearing, he testified he worked for DCS, and he said that Department of Child Services, and that I had emailed DCS and I caused problems for him. So later on, I had emailed DCS for a copy of his employee file to see if he'd ever been disciplined, and they told me we never heard of the guy. So I don't know what there is. And if he wasn't connected to Mitchell, I don't know what Mitchell was hiding about him. Maybe she isn't hiding anything. Maybe she is. That's all I'm doing. I'm literally just going on X and asking those questions. And because of that, Mays wanted to prosecute me for a felony. And I would literally have been the only person in the world ever prosecuted for harassing the spouse of a politician, other than one country. You know which country that was, where you can prosecute a person for criticizing the spouse of a politician? You know what country that is, Rachel?
Communist country.
Nigeria. Nigeria. Uh, and I was trying to appeal Albrecht's decision because it was obviously rigged. It was totally rigged. He even said it was rigged. Yeah, First Amendment, we never heard of it. Pretty much what Albrecht said at the trial. First Amendment, I
And
can't
that's
count
and
that high.
you're referring to your trial.
No, I'm talking about the commissioner who did the injunction hearing, Richard
Okay. Oh,
Albrecht.
okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. I was going to appeal his decision, but guess what he refused to do? He refused to sign his decision, so I couldn't appeal it.
Oh my
He refused to
goodness.
sign it for 5 months. For 5 months until Stephen Lemons wrote about it and said, by the way, Albrecht's refusing to sign this order. And then so he signs it the next day. Anyway, um, so then the Mays wants to prosecute me, because I'm just literally, the words are, I'm disparaging Rachel Mitchell on X, right?
Uh, So,
Then
so, just because we got like 6 minutes left, just tell us where we're at with the status of them coming after you criminally and where we're at with the status of the bar,
okay.
which seems to want to suspend you for more than a year at this point.
Oh, no, the bar's going to disbar me. Rachel Mitchell, and this is back when I was served with the injunction, demanded, and you've seen it, told the bar, I want him disbarred. He's been criticizing me for months on X. So guess what they're doing? They're disbarring me. The judge just ruled this week, I do not have a right to subpoena any witnesses in my own defense. I do not have the right to subpoena any evidence, like written documents, in my own defense. I do not have the right to depose any witnesses in my defense.
Because it's a
And
kangaroo court.
right. But I'm not allowed to argue the First Amendment. I'm not allowed to I would be the only, and I am going to be disbarred. That's finalized. It's rigged. It's completely done. I will be the only lawyer ever in America to be sanctioned for criticizing an elected politician, and that's Rachel Mitchell, and that's straight in stone. But in Tucson, there's a felony prosecution by Attorney General Mays for just a felony prosecution, 2.5 years in prison. The only reason I'm not in prison right now is because of you and because of Lemons. If it wasn't for you or Lemons, I would be Epstein in prison 100%. Why? Because I criticized a politician on X. Why? Because I was a public defender trying to defend an innocent man. But oh yeah, and then just quickly too, Mitchell's managed to get my X account suspended a couple of times. The last time was just last month. If you remember, I was suspended for 2 weeks for impersonation. And what I found out was that somebody was taking my Marine Corps picture that I was using as a profile, created three false accounts, all named Paul, by the way. One of them, Paul Stutz,
Gosh.
and creating fake accounts to get me suspended for impersonation, right?
And so like Mitchell and her fiance could have been behind that, but you'll never know.
100%.
And no one's doing anything about it. No one seems to care. Um, like if they are doing that, that is super unethical behavior.
It is super unethical. It is cynical. Like, imagine it this way. Just look at it this way. The entire government is against me. The entire state government, county government, federal government, FBI is against me. Even using the court system is against me, using legal means. That's not enough. They have to cheat on top of that. They have to cheat on top of that. So where am I right now? I'm going to be disbarred officially. I mean, I've been back to demanding I do a settlement conference, right? Why would I do a settlement conference? Like, why would I make this easy for them? I'm
Well,
going to be
and if you have the same case that happened with former Maricopa County Attorney Andrew Thomas when they had a settlement conference with him, you know what they said offered him as a settlement?
disbarment.
Yep, they offered him nothing. Like he showed up and they were just like, "Well, we're not going to offer you anything less. We're going to disbar you."
But and me though, like I'm disbarred anyway. Like if I'm on death row, oh you can get a probation for this robbing the store. Like well, that's essentially where I'm at. They're demanding I do it because I know what they're doing. I mean, they're trying to force me to give up. They're trying to force me to get me frustrated. So I just say, screw it, I'm done. I walk out of this. So then that they have a default, right? That's what they want. It's pretty clear. When they tell me I can't subpoena any witnesses in my own defense, she said that. She said, she literally wrote, I don't know if you saw it, she literally wrote, I don't know why he thinks he gets to subpoena documents. That's only for the state bar. She literally wrote that in her ruling yesterday. So I don't get to use any documents in my defense. I don't get to use any witnesses in my defense. I don't get to do any pre-trial investigation. And I know what's going to happen. They're going to get an affidavit from Mitchell saying blah, 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 and Stout and whoever else. They're going to do a motion for summary judgment. And I'm going to fight it. And they're going to say, no, you're done. And they're going
And
to say, do
that's
something about it.
And that's why it's important that we get your side of the story out in the court of public opinion so people understand just how crooked the legal system and the state bar have become. And so we're down to the last minute.
Let me
So
just say this real quick. Let me
yeah.
just say this real quick. It's so bad that in last February, Mitchell got dog feces as a Valentine's Day gift in the mail. I'm 100% convinced it was her husband who did it. She told the Phoenix police it was me. She was trying to get me prosecuted for it. That's how bad it is. She
Well,
told the
let's
Phoenix police it was me.
let's wrap it up. Vlad, just tell everybody what your account is on X so they can follow you.
Toxic with a K, Vlad. TOXIKVLAD.
All right. Thanks for having on. Look, I'm glad we could help you get the story out.
Thank you.